Hello dear students of class 10th, welcome to civics class. I hope all of you are fit and healthy. Students, in this video I shall be continuing with the 7th chapter from your civics book, that is Outcomes of Democracy. Students, in the previous video I explained you about legitimate government and about economic growth and development with regard to democracy. Alright, I told you that definitely when we compare democratic and a non-democratic country, we find that development the growth rate is high in a non-democratic country as compared to a democratic country. But still we prefer democratic form of government as compared to the alternatives that are available to us. Alright. Now students, in this video, I shall be moving to the next topic, that is reduction in inequality and poverty. That means how inequality can be reduced, or see, this is the issue, reduction of inequality and poverty. Now we will see that what outcome has been drawn from this issue. Alright. See, when it comes to democracy, then in a democracy we have expectations, a lot of expectation. We expect a lot. Why? To reduce economic disparity and to have equal distribution of wealth. Now what is economic disparity? Economic disparity means some section of the society, they are very rich, they are extremely rich, but some section of the society, they are extremely poor. Alright, that means the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. So this gap is called as economic disparity, and this gap is rising, it is widening. That means rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Alright. So in a democracy we are expecting to reduce this gap, to reduce this economic disparity, and if the economic disparity will reduce, then only poverty can also be reduced. Alright, because if reduction will not be there in this economic disparity, then reduction in poverty will also not be there, because the rich will multiply and the poor, they will also multiply. So wide difference will be there. This gap will gradually widen. It is actually widening and it will continuously widen. Alright. So in a democracy we are expecting to reduce this gap. Students, see, democracies are based on political equality, but growing inequalities are there. Definitely we are based on political equality. That means everybody should have equal political rights, everybody should be given right to vote above the age of 18, whether men or women, everybody should have equal rights when it comes to political inequality. But when it comes to political equality, but when it comes to economic inequality, we see that nothing has been done, or people are not really working, or the government is not really working towards this, to reduce, to combat the gap. Why? See, the poor strata, the poor section, they constitute a major or a large proportion. And if I talk about politicians from the point of view of politics, then the parties, they see that proportion as their vote value, and no party will like to lose their vote value, right? So students, economically cut this line. So students, the democratically elected government, they do not seem to be very keen to address this question. Because why they are not keen to address this question? Because they only see that poor section, that poor strata as vote value, as a good vote value, because they can procure good amount of votes from that section of the society, right? So because of that, because they are seeing their own advantage. They think that they can be benefited if some section of the society will remain poor. Then because of that, they are not addressing that issue, they are not addressing that question, and as a result of which this problem is not able to resolve. So if I talk about the outcome, then in reality we have failed to reduce inequality and poverty when it comes to when we talk about politics. Definitely means this is a failure. We have failed to achieve this. You know, we are in a democratic country, so we cut this line. So students, if I talk about the democratic country, then we have failed to achieve this. Now what does this mean? Is democratic country or is democratic form of government not a suitable government, not a preferable government? No, we cannot say this. We cannot prefer any other form of government, any other alternative over democracy. Definitely it has certain loopholes, but the advantages democracy is offering, that also we cannot neglect. And because of the advantages that democracy is offering us as compared to other forms of government, we have to adopt this. Means we are not compelled, but we actually prefer to adopt this type of government. Why? Now you will say there are so many loopholes, so many challenges. We have failed to reduce inequality. We have failed to reduce equality, economic equality. We have failed to reduce poverty. Then why still we prefer democratic form of government? Because in democratic form of government we can at least expect from the government, right? Expect from the rulers who are ruling, the representatives. But if I talk about the other alternatives, for example, if I talk about democracy, monarchy, military dictator, what will happen? Military rule. Then can we expect, can the citizens of those countries, the countries who are having such form of government, can the citizens expect anything? No, not at all. Citizens cannot expect. So in democracy at least we can expect from the government. So that is why we prefer democracy. Alright, in other forms of government the citizens cannot expect, they have to blindly follow everything whatever the government says. They have to follow them without having the right of expression, right to express. Alright, so that is why we prefer democratic form of government. And if very specifically if I see the outcome of this topic, that is reduction of economic inequality and poverty, then I can say that the outcome is that it is seen that over a period of time democratic country has failed to reduce inequality and poverty. Alright, it has actually failed. So the outcome is this is the outcome of this topic. Now the question is that how can we accommodate social, now cut this line. So I hope till here points are clear to everybody. Now students, we will be moving to the next topic, that is accommodation of social diversity. See, you have studied about diversity in your previous classes also. Diversity means differences. You are different from me, I am different from somebody else, means we are not the same. There are differences in caste, gender, creed, religion, in thinking, mentality, food habits, clothing, our taste, our habits, means there are so many differences, right? So these differences are called as social differences, or what you called as social diversity. We live in a country of diversity. We see diversity. There are so many flavors, I would say, flavors of people, right? So we live in such country. But living in such country is not easy, because diversity can lead to differences and differences can lead to conflicts. So how to resolve those conflicts and how to accommodate social diversity? Instead of having conflicts, how can we accommodate? So this we are going to see in this topic, that how to accommodate social diversity. So students, here in this topic we are going to see democracy and our expectations from it towards a harmonious social life. Now what is harmonious? Harmonious means very peacefully, peaceful social life. See students, if I talk about dictatorship or any other form of government other than democracy, then accommodation is least. Why? Why accommodation is least in any other form of government? Because they will only prefer, they will only favor one group and not everybody. For example, I am just giving you an example. Okay, suppose I am a Hindu, I am the leader of the country. Okay, I am the dictator, I am the king, I am the queen of the country. So I will only prefer Hindu people if dictatorship is there. I will not prefer Muslims, I will not prefer Sikhs, I will not prefer Christians. I am saying again, I will not prefer Muslims, I will not prefer Sikhs, I will not prefer Christians or any other religion. I will only prefer Hindu people. So this is there in dictatorship, that they only favor, that they only prefer a particular group, that means their own group. They will give several opportunities for their people, for their group. Several opportunities will be there. But if I see about other groups, then they will definitely not prefer when it comes to dictatorship. But when it comes to democracy, that means the form of government that is there in India, then in India one group is not preferred. Everybody, every group, every section, every caste, community is given importance. They have their own significance here in a democratic country, that means in a diversity. So students, a democracy accommodates social diversity. We cannot reduce the social differences, but we can accommodate them. Definitely the differences cannot be reduced. There may be differences in everything, from eating habits to wearing, to the clothings, to the mentality, to caste, creed, gender, everything. So we cannot eliminate that difference, but we can accommodate that difference. We can celebrate that difference, and that can only be there in a form of government called as democratic form, which is there in our country. So students, this outcome can be best produced only in a democracy, because it offers such conditions because of which accommodation can be possible. Accommodation is possible. Students, democracy has the ability to handle social differences, conflicts and divisions. Only democracy can handle these differences. For example, if you remember chapter 1, that is power sharing, I explained you about Sri Lanka and Belgium. In Belgium, the government, they accommodated diversity, right? Dutch speaking and French speaking community were there. But in Sri Lanka, the government did not accommodate, as a result of which diversity could not sustain over there. There were differences, there were conflicts among different groups. I hope you remember the Sinhala group. There only the majorities were ruling, the minorities, they were very unhappy, they were not satisfied with the government, as a result of which they protested, right? So their accommodation was not there, but in Belgium accommodation was there. That means in Belgium everything was successful, the government was successful, whereas in Sri Lanka the government was not successful to accommodate the differences, as a result of which conflicts were there. So I hope this topic is clear to everybody. Now students, democracy must fulfill two conditions in order to achieve this outcome. In order to accommodate, there should be two conditions. There are two conditions that are required. Alright. Now students, these two conditions are very important. As you can see here, the two conditions are mentioned. The first one is not the rule by majority opinion, but majority always needs to work with minority. See, if I take the example of Sri Lanka, then in Sri Lanka only the majority were ruling and the minority were not satisfied. But if I talk about Belgium, then majority as well as minority, they came together and then they lived peacefully in a harmonious manner in the country. That means if majority is there, then they must try to connect, they must try to have that bond with the minorities in order to establish good, healthy and peaceful relationships. Okay, so rule by majority opinion should not be there, but the majority should always try to work with the minorities. Then only peaceful relationships can be established in any country, okay, by any form of government. So this is the first condition. Now let's see the second condition. Now the second condition is rule by majority should not become rule by majority community in terms of religion, race or linguistic group. Now what is the meaning of this? See, this is very important. Rule by majority should not become rule by majority community. For example, as I gave you as for example, let me talk about that Sri Lanka only. In Sri Lanka, the Sinhalas were in majority, right? They were in majority. So they only preferred their people. They were actually, the whole community was ruling, not only the certain group of people, but the whole community of Sinhalas, they were ruling. They were trying to dominate, they were trying to subordinate the minorities. So that community should not rule, only majority people, the people, they should rule, not their community. For example, let's suppose that I am the head of, or I am the prime minister of any country. For example, I am the prime minister of India, okay. I am a Hindu, okay. But if I am a Hindu, that does not mean that Hindu community will rule. No, Hindu community will not rule, only the majority, the people who are in power, they will only rule. But if Hindu community will rule, then things will become difficult, things will begin to worse. So that community will not rule, only the majority, they have to rule. So I hope the two conditions that are required to achieve this outcome of accommodation is clear to everybody. So students, different person or group should have chance of being in majority. For example, let's suppose that Sikh community is in minority in our country. Then on the basis of vote value, Sikh can be in majority. Definitely Sikh community is in minority, but on the basis of vote value, only Sikh can be in majority, not the whole community. So I am not talking about rule by the whole community, I am only talking about rule by a certain number of people. Alright, so I hope you understood this topic. So students, I will be proceeding with the next topic in the next video, that is dignity and freedom of citizens. Till then, thank you so much, stay safe and stay connected. I will meet you in the next video. Thank you.